Uranus's atmosphere is remarkably bland in comparison to the other giant planets of the solar system, which it otherwise closely resembles. Incredibly, when Voyager 2 flew by Uranus in 1986, it observed a total of 10 cloud features across the entire planet. Hi everyone, Vega here, and in today's video we return to our solar system series, and to the strange green-blue world that is Uranus. So let's get to it. Over on our Rumble channel, a good friend of mine, Zach from the What's Next channel, told me I was a big fan of the planet Uranus. Well, all the obvious puns aside, it struck me that he had a point. I find the planet absolutely fascinating, and partly this is due to the fact that there is just so little information regarding the world that we've only visited once, that it does make me wonder. We do know that the planet's climate is heavily influenced by its lack of internal heat, which limits atmospheric activity, and also by its extreme axial tilt, which reduces intense seasonal variation. Since Voyager's missions, we have seen a few more features. For example, the Hubble Space Telescope revealed bright clouds in the northern or winter hemisphere, and in 2006 a dark spot similar to the Great Dark Spot on Neptune was detected. In this amazing image we can see the seasonal changes in the atmosphere of Uranus. The south of Uranus is at the upper right, and the north is at the lower left. The south polar cap disappeared between 2007 and 2011, and the North Polar Cap appeared between 2010 and 2015. It's quite a fascinating time for the planet in its 84 years. Between 2007 and 2015, the seasons flipped from one side of the planet to the other, a gap of 8 years or so. Voyager's flyby in 1986 observed only the southern hemisphere of the planet that was in the summer at the time, and again subsequent observations have shown that although the planet is a gas world, it does actually have ice caps, or perhaps what we should really describe as polar caps. It does certainly seem strange that the coldest world in our known solar system, with an average temperature of minus 195 degrees Celsius, actually does have temperature variations, and when you consider that unlike our Earth, Uranus's two seasons, summer and winter, actually last 42 years due to its extreme axial tilt, and as we've mentioned already, take around 8 years or so to flip. In essence, what I'm saying is winter in either hemisphere is going to get a whole lot less sunlight than summer in the opposite. There are differences between the clouds of each hemisphere. The northern clouds tend to be smaller, sharper and brighter, and observations have also discovered that cloud features on Uranus have a lot in common with those Neptune, and indeed, as we've already mentioned, the first dark spot was observed in 2006. This spot itself measured around 1300 kilometers in latitude and 2,700 in longitude, and it moved in the prograde direction relative to Uranus's rotation, with an average speed of 43.1 meters per second, which is almost 20 meters per second faster than the speeds of the clouds at the same latitude. The similarities end there though, as it's thought that the dark spots on the two ice giants are located at somewhat different pressure levels, and the Uranian feature probably lies nearer to 4 bars. The tracking of numerous cloud features actually allowed determination of zonal winds blowing in the upper troposphere of Uranus. Wind speeds do vary on Uranus, and in this diagram we see that at the equator, winds are retrograde, which means that they blow in the reverse direction to the planetary rotation, with speeds around 180 to 360 km an hour. Wind speeds increase with the distance from the equator and in the opposite directions, and northern hemisphere speeds are thought the fastest, with maximum speeds as high as 860 km an hour. Let's take a few seconds now to listen to what the incredible sounds of those Uranian winds in the northern hemisphere might sound like. Of course, given that these winds are in opposite directions, it does leave the theoretical plausibility that there might be a sweet spot in the middle with very little wind at all, although this is theoretical and would obviously be dynamic, meaning we'd have to follow it around rather than it staying in the same place. Continuing on, the determining of seasonal variation is difficult because good data on Uranus's atmosphere has existed for less than one full Uranian year, or 84 Earth years. A number of discoveries though have however been made. For example, Uranus is also known to exhibit strong zonal variations in albedo, and the south polar region of Uranus is thought much brighter than the equatorial bands. The north polar region, however, is fairly dim. Uranus, of course, is thought to be very bland and dull in relative terms for solar system weather, but for a short period in the second half of 2004, a large number of clouds appeared in the Uranian atmosphere, which for a brief period did give it a Neptune-like appearance. Indeed, observations included record-breaking wind speeds of 824 km an hour and a persistent thunderstorm referred to as the 4th of July fireworks. In answer to the question of why this sudden upsurge in activity should be occurring, it's not really known, but it does appear that Uranus's extreme axial tilt results in extreme seasonal variations in its weather, as you might expect. Uranus is really not like any other planet in our solar system due to its axial tilt, and something I think it's fair to say that over the years hasn't really been paid the attention it deserves. Uranus's supposed dull weather, though, is thought to be mostly due to Uranus's internal heat being markedly lower than any of the other giant planets. But again, why Uranus's heat flux is so low is still not understood. Pressures inside the giant world are highly likely no exception to any other gas giant in our solar system. Indeed, Uranus is so cold internally that, relatively speaking, it barely even radiates in infrared at all. Neptune, for example, radiates as much as 44 times more heat than Uranus. And because of this, you possibly already know that Uranus is the coldest planet in the solar system, and the lowest temperature recorded in Uranus's troposphere was just 49 Kelvin or minus 224 degrees Celsius. Another explanation for the dull weather is when Uranus was knocked over, causing this extreme axial tilt, the event possibly also caused it to expel much of its primordial heat, leaving it with a depleted core temperature. A further hypothesis states that there is some form of barrier within Uranus's upper layers which prevents the core's heat from reaching the surface, but little is known or even thought of this particular hypothesis. Of course, if a planet has an atmosphere, there is a good chance it also has lightning. Spacecraft have witnessed dramatic lightning bolts crackling across the skies of Uranus. In today's final graphic, we imagine what it might be like to be in the upper cloud layers of the blue-green world, and we see a scene on a rare calm day in the northern hemisphere. Below, we see murky green-tinged methane clouds create what appears to be a dull green canopy, and meanwhile we see occasional flashes of lightning lighting up the dimly lit view. The dull echo reverberates around the vicinity. Uranus is a strange and unusual world, perhaps the most unusual in our solar system. The planet does have polar caps that change with the season, and because of its strange axial tilt, it only really experiences two 42 long-year seasons, with a brief spring and autumn in between. Wind speeds vary on the world, but the northern hemisphere is thought much more violent than the south. We still don't really know why Uranus is on its side, nor do we fully understand why it only radiates 1/44th the heat of its sister world Neptune. Let's hope in the future that this enigmatic blue-green world is visited again. We wait to see what incredible discoveries it could reveal. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you'd like to support the channel further, you could consider joining the channel, which comes with some membership perks, or alternatively buy me a coffee, and I'll link this in the description. Thanks to those of you who have already done so. Chats with 1979 and America West 90. If you have any videos or subjects you'd like to see brought to life, don't forget to let me know in the comments below. Take really good care of yourselves, and look after your friends and family well, and I'll see you on the next one.